Hey y'all, it's Christy Cook from Teadoddles. It is time for a tutorial Tuesday. I am going to talk about pre-cuts today, which is in relation to quilting cotton, quilting fabrics. You may have seen some in your local Joann's. I know I've seen some in there. I'm just going to talk about what a pre-cut is, the different sizes of pre-cuts, what they're called, and how it relates to a yard of fabric. So, first, welcome all new subscribers and welcome back subscribers. I'm happy to have you here with me in my maker shenanigans. I like to do the sewing things, the yarny things, and the DIY things. So you'll see a little bit of all of that on this channel. I do consider it a maker channel. So if you're a maker too, you might enjoy this channel. So today I have on a sewing shirt. Since I'm dealing with fabric, I got this for Christmas from my parents. It's a sewing machine that's made up of all kinds of sewing bits and pieces. I do like the color, although the fit is a little snug. So that's why you don't see me wearing it as often. I do love the shirt, but this is made of the stiffer, t-shirt cotton, and it sticks on my hips, my butt, because they get a big butt. So anyway, I'm gonna make some modifications to it so I will enjoy wearing it more often. Either way, I like the shirt. I like the print. I like the color. So let's just go into talking about what a pre-cut is. A pre-cut is a bundle of fabric, typically, that is cut to a certain size, and it's usually, if it's in a bundle, it revolves around a line of fabric, right, of whatever kind of line of fabric that is, okay? Something you may be most familiar with is fat quarters, okay? So this is a fat quarter bundle, okay? I actually got this from Blueprint. This is one of their Lillian Loom line of fabrics. This one is called, I don't think it has a name on it, but it is got baking themed fabrics in it. So a fat quarter, and sometimes you may find them as a single fat quarter, and sometimes like in I know the fat quarter shop, they put special bundles together sometimes with different lines of fabric, which is what this is. This is a terrarium fat quarter bundle, but then sometimes they put together, it could be from the same manufacturer of fabric, but it will be different designers, and they'll put special bundles together. And then sometimes on Etsy, you'll see people do bundles together based on colorways or themes. So that's always fun if you need a bunch of different fabrics, but you don't need a whole yard of fabric of each kind, right? Now, I will say, typically, pre-cuts cost more than if you just buy the yard of fabric, okay? Not every place lets you buy a quarter yard of fabric. Joann's will if you go in the store and have it cut, but not online. A lot of Etsy shops will do fat quarter cuts of fabrics, and but typically even they charge more. If you put all the fat quarters together to make a yard, it would cost you more than it would, per yard versus buying a whole yard. I got a coffee cup, my traveling cup today. I'm having afternoon coffee. I can totally make that. That's what it says. My crafty mom made that for me. But, and I should have grabbed one over there, but I'm going to open up this. It'll be easy enough and show you. A fat quarter is typically 18 inches by 21 inches. Okay. And So this is what it looks like. And the reason it's called a fat quarter is that it's like if you cut a quarter yard of fabric, it would be half of this, and it'd be the width of the fabric. But it's like they took that other side and put it up under here. So this is really a half of a half a yard of fabric is how this is cut. That's why they call it a fat quarter. In total, it's a quarter yard of fabric, but it's cut in a way that you can better utilize the fabric. Like I said, it's a half of a half yard. So this is not a yard of fabric. This is a half a yard of fabric, okay? But it's folded in half. It's double, right? Because you get typically 44, 45 inches. Sometimes it goes to 22 inches. Not 22, 42 inches. I think that bright pink just blew out my camera for a minute there. So, that's why if it's 21 inches, and you would think it'd be 22 and a half. And it depends on if they leave the selvage edge on. It is. But selvage, that measurement, 44 to 45 inches, is from selvage edge to selvage. It's from selvage to selvage. So if I hold this up in front of this half yard of fabric, you'll see it varies slightly. This has a really wide selvage edge on it, so it's actually going to be bigger than this piece of fabric. But that's what a fat quarter is. It's half of a half yard of fabric, right? So a full yard, you get, a folded in half piece. But with a fat quarter, that's what it is. And it's cut in a way so you have a bigger portion of fabric to use. And they're great for if you're doing a quilt or something like that, and you need a bunch of fabrics for the quilt. A fat quarter bundle can give you coordinated fabrics in a bundle, and they're pre-cut. So that's why they tend to cost more. Now, I like to look for pre-cuts on sale because pre-cuts are very convenient, which is why they cost more. But if I find them on sale and I add it up, so basically if I would see how much it is per fat quarter for the bundle, and then see how much 4 fat quarters is, because that would make a yard. And if it's, under the price of the yard of fabric that I would typically pay, then I will get it because it's conveniently cut for different things. So I know in Joann's they sell single fat quarters. That you can purchase. And sometimes that's all you need. Okay, so when I say, remember I said 44 inches is selvage to selvage. So when I say selvage edge, I'm talking about once you cut the selvage off, okay? Because this actually measures 46 inches altogether, okay? But once you cut this off, that's the 44 to 45 inches what you get usable fabric. Okay, so that's what it means. It doesn't count the selvage edge, okay? Because typically you don't, well, I use them for stuff, but look at the selvage edge. Isn't it beautiful? Some selvage edges are just gorgeous. Plus, I have a lot of information about the fabric, which is a conversation for another day. Let me stay on track. All right, so that's how a fat quarter relates to a yard of fabric, or rather a half yard of fabric, if you've ever wondered where that came from. Okay, now sometimes you will also find fat eighths, okay? Sometimes they come in a little bundle like this. This one is has 10 pieces in it out of a fabric line, sometimes you have a fat quarter bundle. Typically a fat quarter bundle can have anywhere from 6 to 40 to 30 you know, they always have a varying thing, you know. And, you know, like I said, to figure out if it's a good deal or not, I'll divide it, the price, by the number of fat quarters I'm getting, and then see if 4 of them is good for a yard of fabric, like less than the yard of fabric. So this is also a fat 1/8. Sometimes they come in a roll like this. This was tied. And a fat 1/8, I'm going to open this up. So a fat 1/8 is similar to a fat quarter. You know, it's half of a 1/4 yard of fabric. So they do the same thing with it as they do with the fat quarter. It's an 1/8 of a yard, but this half is moved under here, right? So it's half of a fat quarter. A fat 1/8 is half of a fat quarter. Or pertaining to a yard of fabric, it's half of a 1/4 yard of fabric. So we put this up here. We got a little. This one doesn't have a selvage edge, so I'll move it over here. This one's kind of shorty. It depends on the width of the fabric line too. But that one's kind of short, but it's supposed to be half of a fat quarter. That looks like I got shorted just a wee bit in that, doesn't it? So there are no selvage edges in this either. So, but this is supposed to be, yeah, this is only 20 inches long. So it's supposed to be 9 by 21. This one is only 20 inches long, but it could potentially be because the fabric line was a smaller width. And I've just made a big old mess over here. Okay. Bear with me. I'm just roll that back up. It's not nowhere near in the order. There's a different fabric on the outside, but you can see the pretty fabric. Look, this was a Wonderland, based on Alice in Wonderland type of print. So that's a fat 1/8, and some people even sell fat 1/16, which is half of an 1/8 of a yard of fabric. Is what it is. So and there's different reasons for having those things for different things, you know. Usually I only buy these bundles like this when I find them on sale and a really good deal, because if I want, you know, a good sample of the line of fabric or whatever, and it's a good price, and that's what I'll do instead of buying 1 yard cuts or half yard cuts. And sometimes you can find half yard bundles, which, you know, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's a half yard of fabric from different lines. So no, now I know fat quarters you've probably seen in Joann's. They have a section, a good section of pre-cuts last time I was in there. Something else you probably may have seen in Joann's as well. Now this one's from the Fat Quarter Shop. This is called a jelly roll. Isn't it funny how they like to label yarns and fabrics after pastries? So a jelly roll is 2.5 inch strips of fabric, 2.5 inch by the width of fabric. If you've ever seen the abbreviation WOF, that's what that means, width of fabric. So that's from selvage to, you know, that's the whole width of the fabric, and it's 2.5 inches wide this way. And typically a jelly roll has anywhere from 40 to 42 pieces of fabric in it. You do get repeats typically. You can see here, there's 3 of those little dots. Depending on how many colorways are in the line of fabric, you do usually get at least 2 of each print in a jelly roll. Now I have been seeing a junior, which usually has 20 instead of 40 or 42. So they have just one of each of the fabrics typically instead of 2 or 3, because it depends, like I said, it depends on how many fabrics are in the line as to how many you get of each print. So this one is one I have opened previously, and I was just going to show you. They usually come open off the roll just like this. They unroll just like that, jelly roll. What you will notice with these pre-cuts, most of them are cut with pinking shears. That's to help keep the edges from unraveling, which is also why I usually keep them wrapped until I use them, because they tend to fray very easily because of the edges, and it's a 2.5 inch strip of fabric. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. This is the fold of the fabric, and you can see here the selvage edge, and there's the other selvage edge. So this is 2.5 inch strip width of fabric, okay? And as I said before, quilting cotton is typically 44, usually I'll say 44/45 inch wide. So that is what a jelly roll is. And jelly rolls, like I said, it used to be Moda is really big on there. Fat Quarter Shop has most of these fabric cuts that I'm going to show you. And I'm not going to try to roll that back up right now. I'm going to have to roll this stuff up. I wanted to show y'all what it looked like unrolled, as well as in the bundle, right? You know what I like about these bundles too? These little ribbons. The tabs I put in my bag, a lot of times they're made from these ribbons because they're cute and they come with my fabric, so why not use them? So what we're going to look at next. Oh, something I've noticed recently, I've seen more of, is something called a honey bun, which is like a jelly roll, but it's 1.5 inch strips instead of 2.5 inch strips. So, interesting. All right, so let's look at some pre-cuts that are much smaller than the width of fabric, okay? I'm going to start off with what's called a layer cake, okay? A layer cake is a 10 inch by 10 inch stack of fabrics from a fabric line. Both of these are boundless prints from Blueprint. I love their stuff. The last batch of mini maker bags I did was from a layer cake, like this. Typically they have 40 to 42 pieces of fabric, much like the jelly roll. Usually you get 2 of each print, sometimes a third, depending on how many fabrics are in the line of fabrics. So I have several a quilt pattern I've made up to utilize one of these, as well as jelly rolls. I'm still working on trying to get quilt patterns out for people to make. That's a little bit more of a process than doing a crochet pattern, because you got to have more visual aids in it, and to have someone test it is a lot more work. So, but most of the time you find them, they're in a pack like this, and they're usually wrapped in plastic, because again they have the pinked edge. They don't fray as easily as the jelly roll, because it just seems the thinner the fabric gets, the more it wants to fray. And they're usually tied, like this. So, and I have noticed that they have a junior of this version too, with 20 versus the 40 or 42. Okay, hold on just a second, y'all. Okay, so I have this 10 inch. Now sometimes I've seen them. This is a rolled one, and I really don't like it when they put them this way, because they fold the 10 inch square in half. So there's a fold line on all of these, which means you gotta iron all that out before you use it. So that's kind of a pain. Now this says it's a 10-inch charm pack, but I think that the layer cake name kind of came from Moda, but you still will see them called layer cakes, even in different lines of fabric. But some will put a different label on there, because I don't call that a charm pack. So I'll show you something in a minute that I call a charm pack, or that is typically called a charm pack. So like I said, the 10-inch squares, typically you can, now see, I don't know where the 10-inch came from. So if you put that in a yard of fabric, if it's, we'll say 44 inches wide, we'll take off 4 inches for the selvage edges, okay? It's not going to take off that much, but that's what we'll do. So that gives you 4 across the top, and then a yard of fabric is 36 inches. So that only gives you 3 down the bottom. I'll divide it like that to see if I'm getting, you know, a good deal. Like I said, most of the time these cost more than just buying a yard of fabric. Of course, if you don't need a yard of each of the fabrics, you gotta weigh that option too. So those are layer cakes. Next, we're gonna go to something that I think only the Fat Quarter Shop has. I don't think I've seen these anywhere but at the Fat Quarter Shop. It's called a Jolly Bar. Okay. And this is, what's it? This is a 10 by 5, I think. Yeah, 10 by 5. So it's half of a layer cake, basically. It's 10 by 5. What I love about these Jolly Bars from the Fat Quarter Shop, they all come with a quilt pattern. See? That helps you use this layer, this stack of fabrics. Now, that background fabric is all something different beyond what's in here, but all the pretty fabrics are in this pack. So, like I said, this is called a Jolly Bar. I don't have, well, I have one open, but it's, you know, you can pretty much see what this is right here. Like I said, it's 10 by 5. Half of a layer cake is basically what this is. And I don't think I've seen this anywhere else except at the Fat Quarter Shop. So, and they always come with a quilt pattern. I like to collect them. You get a quilt pattern and some fabric. So that's always nice. So next we have, these are what I call charm packs, okay? It's a 5-inch square of the line of fabric. There's usually 42 in here, 40 to 42. Sometimes you'll see this, and I only see it in certain fabric lines. It's a 5-carat mini crystals is what it's called typically, and this has 24 in it instead of 42. Okay, but it's just typically you get 2 of each color. Well, no, not always. I don't know why, but in this one you don't always get 2 of each color of the fabric. Sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. So I'm not real sure what that's about, because in the layer cake, most always you get 2 of each each fabric in the line. So it's not always that way in a charm pack, and I'm not real sure why that is, but basically, since these are 5 inches, you get 4, make up a layer cake, and you can do that into your yard of fabric like that if you want to. These are really fun. I use these a lot to make my little patchwork bags. Typically, I sew some together, and then I put a, heavyweight fabric on the bottom, and it just makes it real easy. If I can get these at a price that makes sense, right? That's why I always look for pre-cuts on sale, because it makes my job a little bit easier when I'm sewing bags, because I don't have to cut as much. But only if I can get it the price I would pay for per yard for a fabric, right? Because that I don't want to pay more for it just because it's pre-cut, even though it saves me time. So those are charm packs. Okay. Now, then we go to the, I'll talk about these other 2 in a minute. What's called a mini charm. Okay. mini charm. This is a very, I'm fairly certain most of the time I see these, they're Moda. Or, is this one Moda? I don't know. But, this is a 2.5 inch, a 2.5 inch square is what it is. And just like the charm pack and layer cakes, they're typically 42 in here. I haven't seen any that were less than 42 for a charm, mini charm. But like I said, it's just it's got pinking edges on it. And it's a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. These are really great for postage stamp quilts, which typically those are actually 1.5 by 1.5. Hold on a second. I'm going to show you some quilt blocks that I have made with these. Okay. Took me a minute to figure out what bin they were in. But these are all, I used to be in, Fat Quarter Shop has a mini charm club. They actually have a mini charm club. They have a charm pack club. They have a layer cake club, Fat Quarter club. They have all kinds of clubs for fabric if you want to check those out. These were just fun to check out because you get little bits of the fabric. And also, I like mini charms because I can use them for something, but it tells me, am I going to like all the fabrics in this line or not? Because even though you see a picture, when you see it in person, it's always different, right? So what I did, and I just picked them up as I went through the pack, because they're usually in a color order of some kind. I just made these squares, these patchwork squares. And it goes really fast. I did a whole blog post on it. I'll link it down below. And I left a little tab on it so I can remember what fabric line it came from. So I had collected, I still have a bunch of these. My intent is to finish them all, but I haven't yet. But see, each one looks different. And since I did it just straight out of the pack, you get the color range where it goes down from one color to the next in there. Gives you a very nice patchwork quilt. You could mix it up if you wanted to. I just did it just like that to make it not so thinky. Most of these, a lot of these are more traditional prints. Versus more modern print colors. So we got that. So I have several of these. All of these were made from charm packs. This has got something else stuck on it for some reason. Right there. So eventually I will finish making squares and see how big of a quilt I get. So something else I wanted to show y'all that I actually used a lot of charm packs in. Remember, the charm packs are 5 by 5. When I made my postcard from Sweden, I think that's great. I think that's the quilt pattern. I'll look it up and link it below as well. I utilized a lot of charm square packs. You're not going to be able to see all of this, but this is a very kind of, it has a specific layout for colors. I can't see if what y'all can see. But the original quilt was all solids. I hardly ever use solids, y'all. I just don't. So I bought several charm packs actually off a Blueprint for some solids. After I went through the charm packs I already had that had some colors in them, right? This is a quilt I've painstakingly planned out. I went through all the colors. They had a color chart in the pattern. I matched as close as I could to the color they were listing, so I would have that overall effect, which I love the way it turned out. Now, I did use some things that were not charm packs from my stash, but I did use a lot of charm packs in this quilt. So, yeah. One day I'll actually get it quilted. My quilt top is done, but I actually really like that quilt. It's very pretty. So those are just some ways you can use charm packs and mini charm packs. Layer cakes. I want to say I have a blog post about a quilt I made with layer cakes, or I designed to be used with layer cakes. I don't know that I actually made that quilt with layer cakes because they wanted specific fabrics. when somebody wants specific fabrics, you can't always find a layer cake that has all those fabrics in it. So, anywho, if I did do a blog post on it, I think I did. I'll put a link to it down below. It doesn't have instructions on making the quilt. It'll just be about the quilt. Okay. And I think I did a blog post on that postcard one too, and the charm these. Now this one I did have instructions, or it's sort of a tutorial on, you know, putting all these together and chain piecing and trying to get your seams nested. So, all right, now here's 2 pre-cuts that I've only ever seen this one fabric in this pre-cut. I've never seen anything else. This is called a, they call it a Moda Treats. It's 3.5 inch square. So this is the only one I've ever seen. I got it off a Fat Quarter Shop one time. I've never seen a 3.5 inch square pack again since then. So I don't know what that's all about, but maybe you found one. Now something else I have is a hexie pack. So if you've ever done a hexagon paper piecing, sometimes you can buy these pre-cut packs. This has 42 in it too. This is a Tula Pink one by Free Spirit, which is why I had to have it. It's from their Zuma line, her Zuma line. As a matter of fact, let me grab this little mini quilt off the wall right here. Maybe that didn't take too long. But these are hexies. This is what I'm calling hexies, right? So these are, you would, you take the edges of this and fold it over a piece of paper, usually that's shaped the same. You can baste it, or some people baste it with thread, some people use glue. And then you iron it, and then you hand stitch those to the top of the quilt. No, I didn't. What am I saying? I hand stitched them to the seams together, but then I quilted on the machine around the edges of them to the top. So, and I did some match stitch quilting on this, which I really love. It gives it so much texture. And this is just a block. It's a mini quilt, and I have a tendency to not put binding on my mini quilts. You can see that. I like to see the matting and stuff inside because I'm just a very textural person. And since it's just going to be hanging on the wall, it's fine. So, yeah, this pattern I think came from So Can She, like S-E-W, So Can She. She did like 1 year, every month had a new mini quilt pattern. So I have a couple of other ones over there, but this one is actually one of my favorites because of the matchstick quilting I did on it. So, all right then. So if you can find them already cut like this, it's very useful. Instead of using a template to cut them all out, because I do have a hexie acrylic template, but that takes some time. But it's useful if you want to do fussy cutting. A lot of people like to do fussy cut and have the little images in each one. I've seen people make whole quilts with that, and they hand sew, because you have to hand sew. I mean, you could do it on the machine, but it's a Y seam, which requires turning. It's not that easy to do. It's not super hard to do, but it slows down the process. Let's put it that way. I've seen people make whole quilts out of the hexie. I don't know that I could do that. I was pretty proud of myself for doing that one little bit there, and I may do one day a quilt with some little segments like that in there, but I doubt that I would do a whole quilt of hexies. That would, I don't know if I could do that. Maybe when I'm retired one day. Retired, not tired, but retired. Okay, that's all I got to say about pre-cuts today. Hopefully y'all learned some things. As usual, if you have any questions, you can definitely let me know down in the comments or shoot me an email. My email is listed down below. I will be back on Thursday with something fun. I'm not sure. I don't want to do another mail one. I feel like I've been doing mail ones because I don't have a review for something yet. I have stuff to review. I just haven't done it yet. So we'll see how it goes. All right. And hopefully this will get up before it gets too late this evening. I was going to do it yesterday, but I had to run a lot of errands yesterday afternoon. So I did not get to record like I thought I would. But so we'll get this done so it can be uploading stuff while I make some pizza for supper. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all next time, and remember to have a life lived creatively. Bye.